Welcome to my physics classroom. Before we start with our proper lesson, let us have some sort of activity for you to have an idea about the topic that we will tackle today. Our activity entitled, Now You See Them, Now You Know Them. In this activity, I'll show a set of pictures and then you will try to guess our topic for today. So are you ready? Here are the set of pictures. So here's the first one. So we have here a scientist. Next, we have here a symbol. And then we have a motion picture. And another motion picture. So if you want to know the answer, just think and then pause this video. Then if you know the answer, just play it. Okay. Okay, I hope you have your answer in your mind. So the topic for today that we're going to discuss is all about Newton 3 laws of motion. So I hope you get the correct answer because based on the activity or the slide that I've showed a while ago, we have picture of the scientist, which is Newton, and we have symbol for law, and I have two pictures that shows motion. So our topic for today is Newton 3 laws of motion. Before we proceed with the discussion, let us begin with the end in mind. Here is the objective of our lesson. At the end of the lesson, 100% of the students shall be able to attain at least 85% level of proficiency to differentiate Newton 3 laws of motion, solve problems involving laws of motion, and lastly, cite application of these laws in daily living. For you to understand our topic very well, let us define some important or unlock some important terms that you will be encounter in this lesson. So here are the terms. So we have forces and unbalanced forces. Okay, when we say forces, it is a push or pull that acts upon an object. So as you can see in this example, I have here a stickman pulling an object and is another stickman pushing an object to show what forces is. How about unbalanced force? So when we say unbalanced force, these are forces applied to an object in an opposite direction. But from the word unbalanced itself, meaning the forces acting on the object is unbalanced. Let's say in this example, so I have here an object. So we have here 500 Newton going down. So yung weight ng object and another 500. So that is equal. But if we put 700 Newton on this side and 500, then the forces is no longer balanced. So the seesaw, or just like this one, so as you can see, there will be unbalanced force, kaya mas mag-move downward. No? Mas nagkakaroon kasi ng movement when there is unbalanced force. So another example of balanced force for you to know to understand what is unbalanced force. So this one is a balanced force. As you can see, there are equal forces acting on one object in an opposite direction. So what will happen to the object when there is a balanced force? So the object will not move. Do not change the object's motion. So yung mga nakikita natin na object na nasa table alone, meaning there is a balanced force. Pero pag tinulak mo yung object sa isang table, gagalaw yung object na yon, and then there is unbalanced force. Iyon yung force na in-applied mo sa object. Mas greater na yung force dito sa right side na to kasi tinulak mo na, kaya mag-move yon. So, that is unbalanced. We have two types of forces. These are contact forces or contact force and non-contact force. So let us differentiate these two. Let's start with contact force. So when we say contact force, these are forces. So may I use this my pointer. So when we say contact force, these are forces that acts on a body either directly or through a medium. From the word contact, so there is a direct contact between the object. So for you to understand this one, I have sample. So I have muscular force is an example of contact force, mechanical force is also example, and frictional force. We can make use of the muscular force of the animal like horses and camels to get the activities done. And for frictional force, it is another type of contact force which act between pair of a surface in contact and tends to oppose the motion of the surface over the other. As you can see, for example, this boy, no, meron siyang skateboard ba to? So, we have here the wheel no ating skateboard. So, yung movement niya pa ganon. Pero yung friction naman, yung gaspang nung sahig, no, opposite direction yon. Kaya minsan, di ba, mapapansin nyo, bigla na lang siyang hihinto. So, there is a contact force between the surface and the skateboard or yung pinakagulong ng skateboard. So, that is also example of a frictional force. And frictional force is under contact force. Another type of a forces is non-contact forces or non-contact force. When we say non-contact force, these are forces that act through a space without making direct contact. So there is no direct contact, kaya nga siya tinawag as non-contact. No? Example of these non-contact force are gravitational force, electrostatic force, and magnetic force. So sa gravitational force, as you can see, lahat ng object ay nagpo-fall sa ating Earth because of the gravitational pull of the Earth. So, kahit walang direct contact, kahit nasa taas ang object, mapapansin mo, pupunta siya pababa because of the forces exerted by the gravity. So, walang contact force between them unless napunta na talaga directly dun sa baba yung object. So, kapag ikaw, once na nasa building ka at inalis mo yung paa mo sa building, no, you will experience the gravitational force exerted by the Earth. So, lahat ng bagay nagpo-fall because of the gravitational force. On the other hand naman, we have here electrostatic force. Paano yun? So, have you experienced na gumamit kayo ng suklay sa bahay ninyo? And then, habang ginagamit mo yung suklay, no, ginagamit mo na siya ng ginagamit, then nailapag mo siya dun sa mga papel na nasa sahig. No, as you can see, naa-attract yung papel dun sa ating comb kahit hindi naman directly magkalapit yung comb and yung paper. The reason behind that is the electrostatic force. So, as you comb your hair, you can observe the static electricity. No? Let's say you run the plastic comb through your hair, then you place comb near small pieces of paper. There is attracted to the comb. This happened because of the charge. Comb induces an opposite charge, no, on the paper. So yung buhok mo naging positively charged, and then yun namang comb, dahil plastic ito, mataas ang electron affinity niya, so there is a tendency na mag-negatively charged to. So ang nangyayari, ma-attract niya ngayon tong papel. So, nagkaroon ng electrostatic force doon. As we go on in physics 2, you will understand what is electrostatic force. And the other hand naman is magnetic force. So, ayan, if you play with magnets, you observe the magnetic force. Without direct contact, diba? Pwedeng itulak ng magnet to magnet yung bawat isa without a contact force. Kaya they are considered as example of non-contact forces. So now, let's move with the first law since na-define na natin yung mga terms na kailangan i-discuss. So, first law is also known as law of inertia. So, ano nga ba yung sinasabi pag first law? First law states that an object at rest stay at rest and an object in motion stays in motion with the same speed and in the same direction unless acted upon by unbalanced force. So, remember lang pag first law, sinasabi niya na an object that is at rest, stay at rest. An object that is in motion will stay in motion. Kailan lang daw mag-change yung isang object ng kanyang motion? If we, what? If we put unbalanced force on the object. So, for you to understand it, as you can see in this example, for you to understand first law, we have here a two ball. The one is at rest and the one is in motion. Based on the first law of motion, it says that when the object is at rest, it will remain at rest. And when the object is in motion, it will remain in motion unless they experience an unbalanced force or there is unbalanced force acting on them. Let's say in this example, I applied force and the force that I applied is in this direction. What will happen to this object? Of course, this object will experience an unbalanced force. Because we applied an unbalanced force in this direction, from rest, this object will move. Okay, so that is first law. Another one, we have here a ball that is in motion. Let's say I applied a force and a force that I applied is in this direction. From moving, let's say the object is moving in this direction, when I applied force here or I put any object in this direction or I put, let's say I put a table, now what will happen to the ball? This ball will experience an opposite force and the force going in this direction. So since we had applied force here, this object will experience an unbalanced force. And from moving object or from in motion, this object will stop or move into rest because the object experiences an unbalanced force. That is Newton's first law of motion. Okay, let's have another example of the first law of motion or also known as law of inertia. Let's say I have here a stickman. As you can see, this stickman kicked the ball or applied a force. So from rest, the ball moved. Okay, because the stickman or this man um, exerted a force toward this one. So the ball experienced an unbalanced force in this direction. That's why the ball moved. But without any unbalanced force, the object will remain at rest because according to the first law, an object that is at rest will remain at rest. In this example, let's say I have here object that is moving. Since the object experienced unbalanced force brought by this car, no, the object from in motion will change its motion or from moving will change its motion into rest or mag-stop siya because it experienced an unbalanced force exerted by this um, object. So, in opposite direction, pag ganon. Ito naman, pag ganon ang movement. So, that is first law of motion. Why we call first law as law of inertia? What is inertia? Okay, when we say inertia, it is a tendency of an object to continue in state of rest or uniform motion. All things on earth, even us, we have inertia. Sometimes, scientists call inertia as laziness. Laziness to change in motion. Let's say nakahinto ka, let's say a person is at rest, no? We have the ability to remain at rest. Yun yung inertia natin. Let's say may nakita kang object na nakahinto. This object will remain at rest, no? Yun yung property niya and we call it as inertia. Kapag naman gumugulang ang ball, it has an inertia also. Inertia to remain in motion unless acted upon by unbalanced force. Kaya we call first law as law of inertia. For you to understand, I have your question. When do we feel inertia? Kailan natin mararamdaman ng inertia? So, have you experienced moving in a car? Let's say, umaandar tong car natin. Let's say this car is moving in this direction, no? Let's say your father driving your car and then nandun ka inside the car and then suddenly, no? Your father ah, nag-brake siya or nag-stop siya bigla. Biglang may dumaan na anything or animal na biglang nag-brake yung iyong father, brake, tawag dito, nag-stop siya. So, what will happen to your body? Your body will continue to move pa rin. Kaya kailangan natin mag-seatbelt. The idea of seatbelt comes with the first law of inertia. no? Lalo na kapag nasa harapan ka, nakasakay, kailangan may, lalo na yung driver, no? Kaya may mga safety features tayo sa sasakyan, gaya sa sasakyan namin, meron kaming safety features na kapag hindi mo sinuot ang seatbelt mo, tutunog siya. Kasi, based on the law of inertia, no? If you stop your car, your body will remain in motion pa rin. Magmumove pa rin ang ating katawan because of the inertia. Another example, dito kasi base yung example. Another example, when you are in a jeep, no? And then suddenly the driver stops. And then what will happen dun sa katabi mo? So, syempre, masusubsob ka sa katabi mo. Kung crush mo yon, syempre, matutuwa ka. Sasabihin mo lang kay crush, sorry crush, inertia. But, it's a joke, no? Pero, the idea behind that is the inertia. Yung body mo will continue to move pa rin because of your inertia. That's why we call first law as law of inertia. I hope you understand. Okay, another example, kaya kailangan ng seatbelt, I already mentioned na, lalo na kung giraffe ka, kundi mapuputol ang leg mo, no? Your neck will break, no? If you are giraffe. So, kahit hindi naman giraffe ka, it is necessary for you to wear seatbelt because of the first law. A body that is in motion will remain in motion, no? Kaya nga kapag nakasakay ka sa bus, halimbawa nasa terminal ka, biglang sumakay yun, masusubsob ka naman kasi from rest, gusto pa rin ng katawan mo mag-rest. Because we have the property we call inertia. Okay. So when we say inertia, meron siyang pinag-aiba between the masses of the object. When the object has more mass, no? Just like in this example, I have here an elephant and a stickman. Between these two, an elephant has a larger mass compared to this one. So a larger mass means more inertia. Let's say this elephant is moving, no, running, and this one is running. Which of them is hard to stop? Of course, this one. We experience more inertia of this object. Mas mahirap siyang pigilan kapag siya ay nagmo-move kaysa dito. Let's say they are both in rest naman. Nakahinto yung stickman. Let's say na lang naka-stop siya. Ito din naka-stop. And we want them to move. So, gusto natin silang itulak pareho. So, mas madali itong ipamove. Mas madaling mabago yung movement niya. No? From rest, mas madaling itulak mo lang siya, mag-change na agad siya ng motion. Ito, mas mahirap siyang itulak kasi mas massive siya. So, the object that has more inertia, ay more mass, no? Mas mabigat, has more inertia compared to an object that has a lesser mass. Okay, so now let us proceed with the second law of motion. Newton's second law of motion. The second law of motion, if first law, we call first law as law of inertia. The second law is law of force and acceleration. According to this law, the acceleration of the object is directly proportional to the force and inversely proportional to the mass. So, as you can see, we have here three quantities. We have acceleration, force, and mass. Always remember that the second law explains the relationship between the acceleration, force, and mass. And it says that acceleration is directly proportional to the force. What does it mean? No, I will explain it more as we go on. But when we say directly proportional, it means when this quantity increases, this quantity also increases. And when we say inversely proportional, it means that when the acceleration increases, the mass increases. Or let's say the mass increases, the acceleration increases, which is very true. Kaya nga kapag mas bumibigat ka, mas bumabagal ka. Kaya mas, yung acceleration mo mas mababa. Pero pag mas magaang ka, mas maliit ang mass, mas mataas ang value ng acceleration. For you to understand it more, let us proceed with the next slide. Okay, so second law of motion, no? As you can see in this example, meron ako ditong man, and then as he applied force in this object, what will happen, no? Okay, yon. Okay, noong una, a little bit of force. So, yun lang acceleration ng object. And when he applied more force, so the acceleration of the object increases because force and acceleration are directly proportional. So, as the quantity increases, force increases, the acceleration also increases. So, let's have another example for us to be able to derive the equation of the second law. Since meron tayong three quantities na involved in this law, we have to derive an equation from the statement given by this law. Kaya nga siya tinawag as law of force and acceleration. So, for you to understand this law more, I have here two cards, push card na gagamitin ko to explain. So, let's say sa force. Force is directly proportional to the mass, sabi dun sa second law. So, in this example, I have a larger mass here and lesser mass here kasi ito empty, mas magaang to. Ito mas mabigat. So, ano yung mas applyan ko ng mas mataas na force if I want to push this cart? Of course, this mass has a more mass, so more force ang required. Dito, less mass, less force. So, directly proportional. Pero pagka dinagdagan ko pa to, more force pa. Because directly proportional sila. Another, force is directly proportional to acceleration. Let's say naman, disregard muna natin tong isang push cart. Now, let's say itong cart na to, itutulak ko siya with 10 Newton. So, yung acceleration niya, let's say 2 meter per seconds lang. And then, dinoble ko, ginawa kong 20 Newton. So, mas mataas yung force na in-applied ko dito sa push cart na to. Siyempre, mas bibilis siya. Because force and acceleration are directly proportional. On the other hand naman, mass and acceleration are inversely proportional. Siyempre, sa kanilang dalawa, ito more mass, ito less mass. No? Pag tinanong, which of them will have a larger acceleration? If we will put or applied 10 Newton, pareho sa cart na to, pareho silang 10 Newton, pero magkaiba sila ng mass. Which one will have a greater acceleration? Of course, the other one that has less mass. No, ito kasi mas more mass siya, so mas mababa ang acceleration niya. Ito naman, mas less yung mass, so mas mataas ang acceleration niya kasi mas magaang siya eh. Because according to second law, no, mass and acceleration are inversely proportional, which is very true. Try mong ayain yung, try nyo pag nagja-jogging kayo, no? Not to discriminate, but to give an example. Sino yung mas mabilis magbago ang velocity? Yung nagja-jogging na mas magaang o yung nagja-jogging na mas medyo malusog or medyo mas mabigat? Of course, mas mababa yung acceleration ng taong mas mabigat, no? Kaysa dun sa magaang. Because according to second law, mass and acceleration are inversely proportional. I hope you understand this example. Let us proceed with the second slide. Okay, now, since you already know the relationship between the three quantities, force, mass, and acceleration, no, let us have a equation na gagamitin for our solving problem. And at the same time, it will represent the second law. No? Kaya pag tinanong ko yung, second law, that is F is equal to MA. Sometimes some of my students answered, okay, will you state second law? Second law state that force is equal to mass multiplied by acceleration. It is quite correct, no? If you, but kung i-elaborate mo siya, dito din makikita natin sa equation ng relationship. So, turo ko lang sa inyo, kapag ganyan, let's say we have here force, and then naka-equal siya sa mass and A, ibig sabihin yan, directly proportional sila pareho kay force. No? As you increase the force, as you increase the mass, rather, force increase. As you increase the force, acceleration also increases. Pero pagka ganyan sa equation, magkatabi silang ganyan, means mass and acceleration are inversely proportional. So, unit for force is Newton and unit for mass is kilogram. And for acceleration is meter per second squared. So, let us derive this equation para mas maintindihan. So, from this, pwede nating i-derive, we can derive this equation into A is equal to F, over M or M is equal to F over A. So, kahit dinerive natin, mas makikita lalo natin yung relationship. So, nasa numerator ito numerator din, directly proportional. Kapag ito nasa denominator, ito numerator, diyan pa lang makikita ang inversely na yan. So, inversely proportional pa rin talaga sila. So, that is second law of motion or also known as law of force and acceleration. Now, let us proceed with the third law of motion or also known as law of interaction. Based on this law, it says that for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Always remember, the word action is for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Now, highlight natin yan. For you to understand it, let us have an example for third law. Let's say, I have here a man pushing the wall with 100 Newton or the man exerted 100 Newton, force of 100 Newton to the wall. Vice versa, the wall exerted 100 Newton to the man in opposite direction. That is example of third law. As you can see, if the man pushes the wall, let's say 500 Newton, the wall also pushes the man with 500 Newton in opposite direction. This one is going east, this one is going west. So, ganun lang yon. Kapag tinutulak mo yung pader, kung gaano yung force na i-applied mo sa pader, the same time, iyon din yung force na ma-experience ng palm mo sa pader. Another example. Okay, if you are pushing the wall, let's say 500 Newton, your let's say hand will experience also 500 Newton. Kaya kapag mas malakas ang suntok mo sa pader, to the point nun, may tendency pa na ma-break yung bone mo. No? Kung talagang mas malakas yung suntok. Kaya minsan nasusugat yung taong sumusuntok sa wall. Kasi gaganti yung wall sa'yo. No? Ganun yun. For every reaction, there is an equal and opposite reaction. No? Kaya kung ako sa'yo, hindi ko na lang susuntukin yung pader because if you don't know this idea, susuntukin mo yung pader ng mas malakas. Not knowing, you will experience the same force. And another example is this one. As you can see, we have here a cannon, no? And we have here a ball. The cannon will exert force to push the ball. Let's say 1,000 Newton dahil mas malakas yan. On the same effect, the ball will also exert force to the cannon 1,000 Newton in opposite direction. Same din po yan with the idea of the gun recoil. The idea of the gun recoil look like this. So, bakit minsan mabibitawan mo? Kasi malakas yung impact ng bullet. If, let's say, 2,000 Newton exerted by the gun to push the bullet, the bullet also exert 2,000 Newton to the gun. Kaya kapag si Cardo, nakita mo, nanonood kayo ng action movie, and then si Cardo bumabaril na parang wala lang, no? Pagka ganon, hindi yun makatotohanan. Dapat, para pag makatotohanan, dapat may recoil. Dapat makikita natin nun. So, kapag gano'n, hindi ito makatotohanan because according to the law of interaction, there must be a gun recoil. Kung ano yung force exerted by the gun to the bullet will also exert force to the gun. Another one. Today, if you are sitting on a chair, let's say the force you exerted is your weight. Because weight is an example of force. If your weight is 50 kilos, you exert 50 kilos to the chair. And at the same time, the chair exert 50 Newton sa'yo. So, in opposite direction. That is an example of law of interaction. Another example, slapping a person. If someone slap you, sinampal ka, huwag ka nang gumante. Because based on law of interaction, nakaganti ka na in opposite direction. Kaya lang, nung sinampal ka niya sa pisngi, mas ramdam mo kasi nasa pisngi, pero yung pisngi mo sumampal na rin sa kamay niya. No? So, huwag ka nang gumante kapag ka nagkaroon ng trouble. Yan. Next, is law of interaction in a racket. So the gas pushes the racket and the racket pushes the gas, no? Kaya meron tayong opposite direction but same amount of force. That is the three laws of motion. Again, let us review. First law says that in a body that is at rest will remain at rest, or kung gumagalaw naman in motion will remain in motion. Kailan lang sila mag-change ng motion? When there is unbalanced force. So first law is also known as law of inertia. Second one is law of acceleration and force, or the second law. It says that force is directly proportional to mass and acceleration, but mass and acceleration are inversely proportional. So the equation for the second law is F is equal to ma. And for third law of interaction, for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Now, we already defined these three laws. We can now proceed with the calculation. Okay, make sure you have your pen, your calculator, and your paper with you because we're going to use them. Okay, again, since we're going to solve problems, we will use our favorite mnemonics in solving, which is GRESA. Given, required, equation, solution, answer. Last week, you already used this one, so it's easy for you, and I don't need to elaborate these things because you already know them. Let us use them in this problem. Okay, let us have the problem. I read the problem first. A net force of 15 Newton is exerted on an encyclopedia to cause it to accelerate at a rate of 5 meter per second squared. Determine the mass of the encyclopedia. Again, we will find the given, required, equation, solution, and then the answer. For the given, we have here numbers. Obviously, these are the given. So we have 15 Newton and 5 meter per second squared. Let's put this given to this side. So we have 15 Newton is the force. Sa unit pa lang, malalaman na natin what is this given. So we have force is equal to 15 Newton. And then we have acceleration, which is equivalent to 5 meter per second squared. And as you can see in the problem, we need to find the mass. It is directly stated in the problem. So just write mass is equal to question mark. So for equation, I already showed you what is the equation that we're going to use in this problem. So we have F is equal to ma. So that is second law. As you can see in the problem, we need to find the value of the mass. So we need to derive a formula from this equation. Deriving the formula by putting mass as the missing one, so the equation will be m is equal to F over A. Since we have the equation, we can now proceed to the solution. Just substitute this given to our equation. So this will be m is equal to 15 kilogram meter per second squared over the acceleration 5 meter per second squared. If you are a good observer, I put kg meter per second squared. That is also equivalent to Newton. Newton is a force. As you can see in this problem, MA. M is a mass. Meter per second squared is A. Kaya ang unit ng Newton, ng force is Newton. And Newton is also equivalent to kg meter per second squared. Pareho lang yan. I need to write this unit lang para mas mapakita natin yung makakancel. As you can see in the problem, makakancel natin yung meter per second squared. So, cancel na natin yan. Yan. Kasi kung naka-Newton yan, we cannot cancel the unit. Unless alam nyo na agad siya in your mind, pwede yon. So, solving this problem or calculating this, we can have the answer 3.0 kg. So, that would be the answer or the final answer. I hope you understand the lesson. Now it's your turn. I will post the question here. Okay. So here's the problem. If a 70-kilogram swimmer pushes off a pool with a force of 250 Newton, what is her acceleration? Again, it is your turn. Just solve the problem and then post mo na yung video na to. Then, after nyo siyang masagutan, just play the video presentation. Okay. So, let's say you have your answer in your paper. After posting the video, let us solve the problem. Okay, let's find the given, required, equation, solution, and the answer. For our given, in the problem, we have 70 kg and 250 newtons. So, let's put it on the given. M is equal to 70 kg, kilograms, and force is 250 newton, or pwede nyo ring isulat na kg meter per second squared. And on the problem, the missing one, or the thing that we need to find, is the acceleration. So, acceleration is question mark. Formula to be used, F is equal to ma. Deriving the formula by putting A as your required. So, the formula will become A is equal to F over M. Substituting the given to the formula. So, this will be look like this. A is equal to 250 kg meter per second squared. So, bakit ito sinulat ko? Alam nyo na. And dividing 70 kg. So, para makancel natin yung kg. And we see that the unit remaining unit is meter per second squared, which is unit for acceleration. Dun pa lang ma-check mo na kung tama ka. So, the answer will be 3.57 meter per second squared. Pwedeng ito na yung sagot nyo, pero kasi based on the problem, we have how many least significant. To dalawa ito, isa lang. So, pwede ko siyang ipalo yung rule ng significant. Pwede kong ang gawin ng sagot ko ay isa lang din ang significant. So, A is equal to 4.0 meter per second squared, or 4 meter per second squared. Yun, mas tama yun. Okay? I hope you have the same answer with me. Okay. Now, let us proceed with the calculation about the relationship of force, mass, and acceleration laws of motion. So, this time, please follow my direction as we solve this problem para yung next problem kayo naman. So, let us solve. Here's the problem. Suppose that sled is accelerating at a rate of 2 meter per second squared. If the net force is tripled and the mass is doubled, then what is the new acceleration of the sled? So again, just follow the instruction para mamaya kayo naman. We'll use given, required, equation, solution, answer from the problem. Ano yung may mga numbers? So we have 2 meter per second squared. Ito naka-word lang, pero obviously number pa rin. If the net force is tripled and the mass is doubled. So for the given, we have acceleration 2 meter per second squared. And yan yung initial. Kaya nilagyan ko ng A1 kasi as you can see in the problem, acceleration ulit yung hinahamat. So that would be the second acceleration na. And another, we have the value of a force, sabi dyan, threefold. So threefold means 3 times. Or I just put 3 para sa pagsosolve mamaya. Or pwede ring 3x. Pero pwede na yung 3. And ang sabi dito, the mass is doubled. So mass is equal to doubled, or it means in number as 2. And in the problem, the question is, what is the new acceleration? So, final acceleration yung tinatanong. So, you can write A sub F, but I use A sub 2 because I have here A sub 1. Okay, again, sana naintindihan tong example. And ang equation natin, F is equal to ma. Deriving the formula, so we have A is equal to F over M. Okay. Now, let us proceed with the solution. A is equal to 3/2. Bakit 3? Kasi F force is 3, 2 yung mass natin. So, wala muna akong sinulat na unit kasi it is just a factor lang naman. Tripled and doubled lang ang tinatanong. Kaya pag na-solve natin to, it is just a factor that we need to find. No? So, acceleration is 3/2 daw of the A1. So, pag na-solve natin, ibig sabihin, 3/2, mahahati siya, or I mean, ano ang 3/2 nung 2 meter per second squared. So, hindi pa final yung sagot natin. Kasi ang tanong, what is the value of the new acceleration daw? Ano kaya ang mangyayari sa acceleration if, for example, the acceleration is 2 meter per second squared? And then, I doubled the amount of force. I tripled the amount of force. And I doubled the amount of mass. Based on the relationship, what would be the new acceleration? Kung dinagdagan ko yung force, dinagdagan ko din yung mass. Ano kaya ang mangyayari dun sa acceleration nung object? Okay. So, sabi dito, based on our computation, 3/2 of the acceleration. 3/2 of 2 meter per second squared. So, paano natin kukunin? Multiply lang natin. A is equal to 3/2 multiplied by 2 meter per second squared. So, the answer is 3 meter per second squared. So, as you can see, sa relationship pa lang, ang acceleration natin na una is 2 meter per second squared. Ang ginawa daw, tripled. So, in-increase daw niya yung force. We increase the force. What happened to the acceleration? From 2, nag-increase din siya. Yung mass naman natin, no, 2 meter per second squared. So, hindi natin makikita yung relationship kasi dinagdagan natin yung force. Dito makikita lang natin ang relationship between force and acceleration. No? Kailangan kasi magkakatapat yung, dapat mapagbangga-bangga natin yung relationship between these three. Dito pa lang nag-increase ang ating force, tripled the force, and then we also increase our acceleration. Next, for you, it's your turn again. No? Same lang din kung ano yung ginawa ko kanina, ganun lang din ang gagawin nyo dito. Okay, here's the problem that you're going to solve. Let us read first. Suppose that a sled is accelerating at a rate of 2 meter per second squared. If the net force is tripled and the mass is halved, then what is the new acceleration of the sled? Okay, you may now pause the video and then try to answer this problem. And then later on, if you are done, just play the video and then check your answer. Okay. Let's say you have your answer with you after posting the video and answering this problem. Now let us check if you are correct. Let us begin. So that we need to find the given, required equation, and the solution, and then the answer. For our given on the problem, we have 2 meter per second squared, that is the acceleration, and the force is tripled, and the mass is half. Okay, so just write this one on a given. So initial acceleration would be 2 meter per second squared, and the force is tripled daw based on the problem, or it is 3 threefold. Then for mass, it is half or equivalent to 1/2. Okay, and the required, as you can see in the problem, we need to find the new acceleration. So that is a sub 2 question mark. Equation would be F is equal to ma. Deriving the formula, A is equal to F over m. Now let us substitute this given to the formula. So A sub 1, A is equal to 3 divide 0.5. Ma'am, bakit po 0.5? Kasi kinonvert ko lang siya para mas madali siyang isulat sa PowerPoint. Pero pwede naman 3, isulat nyo lang yung 1 over 2 sa, alam ko yun ang sinulat ng iba. Okay lang yun. Ako kasi sinolve ko na 1 divide 2 is equivalent to 0.5. Okay. So the answer would be 6 of the A1. So as you can see in the problem, 3 divide 0.5 or 3 divide half, no? The answer is 6. Pero hindi pa yun yung final answer kasi factor pa lang yun. So, ibig sabihin, 6 of the A1. So, 6 times nito. 6 times of 2. So, let us solve. A is equal to 6 times 2 meter per second squared. So, the value of our acceleration would be A is equal to 12 meter per second squared. As you can see in the problem, if you going to analyze the problem, sabi dyan, 2 meter per second squared yung acceleration ng ating sled. But, if the net force is triple, so tinaasan natin yung net force, pero yung mass, we have the mass. No? Kilalahati natin yung mass niya. So, mas gumaang siya. What happened to the acceleration? Tinaasan mo na yung force, and then hinab mo na, or binawasan mo yung mass ng ating sled. So, from the acceleration of 2 meter per second squared, it increased to 12 meter per second squared. Kasi nga sabi, kapag nag-increase ang force, mag-i-increase ang acceleration. So, yung mass, binawasan natin, bumaba ang value ng mass, yung acceleration, tumaas siya. So, this also depicts the relationship of force, mass, and acceleration. I hope you understand this problem. And then, let's proceed with the problem on your learning activity sheets. Okay. For the evaluation, you will find the evaluation uploaded on your Google Classroom. If you have question, just message me. If none, you may try to answer your learning activity sheets provided in the Google Classroom. Thank you. I hope you enjoy this video presentation.